At approximately 7:21 this morning, we received a call for service from a third party, not at the residence, regarding the location of the 100 block of West Courtner. The information we received that there was blood at this location, and they believe there was a possible shooting. Multiple officers arrived on scene approximately 7:25. They entered and cleared the residence. When doing so, they found a deceased male adult, later identified as Victor Gomes. That's Victor Gomes, Gomes, 43 years old. Mr. Gomes was deceased with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Also in the residence, we found a juvenile child, also with a gunshot wound. This child was alive when officers responded, and they immediately performed CPR and provided first aid. The juvenile, Wyland Gomes, was transported to Hanford Adventist Medical Center for treatment. Unfortunately, it's sad to say he passed away as a result of the injuries. We are still investigating the incident now. Investigators are currently at the scene, and we're working with the family and family members to determine exactly what happened. Currently, right now, we have no triggering or significant events that we can kind of point us to why this occurred today. Everything seemed normal talking to friends and family, and we don't have a triggering incident. But we'll still work with figuring that out and working with the family to notify them. We have limited history with the deceased, Mr. Gomes. The last contact we had with him was in 2008, and that was a keep the peace incident for a child custody exchange. There was no information written, and this was a child custody exchange with the deceased child and the mother. Prior to that was an incident in 2016 where it was reported the deceased had suicidal thoughts. We documented that incident and forwarded it over to the district attorney's office. The mother worked with the district attorney's office to obtain a good cause order. The good cause order initiated a civil child custody process, which allowed the mother to have full custody, and the father had his custody removed. Part of that incident, he had a gun. That gun was turned over to the Hanford Police Department the day after that incident occurred. That gun from that incident is still in our custody. It was never returned to him. As part of that process with the courts, the deceased had to go through a mental health process that was approved by the courts, and he was eventually granted supervised visitation of the child. The weapon used today was a handgun, and it was legally purchased by Mr. Gomes in 2017. The child does attend school locally. We've reached out to the school district, and they are providing mental health services for staff and children through the County Office of Education, through the Kings County Superintendent of Schools, Todd Barlow. Other than that, we have honestly limited information. We have no outstanding weapons in the case, and there's no threat to anybody else. Everything that we've worked on at the scene and talked to people, this was an incident where the deceased decided to take his child's own life and then his. And it's a horribly sad day for us. I can answer limited questions, but honestly, I don't have a whole lot to provide. But if there's any questions, let me know.
Who else was home at the time, Captain?
The mother of the deceased, of Mr. Gomez's mother.
Speaking about the gun, was it bought in California?
I don't have that information. It was registered out of California and purchased legally.
Where was it registered? It was registered, you said, out of California? Do you know?
No, I don't know. It was registered to him. It appears to be purchased in California, but it was legally registered to him and purchased in 2017.
Can you speak a little bit more to exactly what a good cause order is and how that process works?
The district attorney's office, they have a unit that works with courts and sometimes victims of domestic violence or other types of thing. And a good cause order is a 30-day protective order that the district attorney's office can work with the courts for. And what that does is the they'll provide a written order to the courts, and the courts can either grant it or not. And it's a temporary order for 30 days to protect someone or a person. Like in the incident back in 2016, the mother went to the district attorney's office with information that he was possibly suicidal, and was able to get a judge to order a good cause order that says, for good cause, for the next 30 days, you're not going to be able to see your child until we can sort this out. And so the mother is granted temporary sole custody while they go through the court process. And then a judge, after whatever process is deemed appropriate by the courts, can change that visitation order.
Just to be clear, you said the mother of Gomes, was it the mother of Wyland or the mother of Victor?
The mother of Victor was at the residence. So Mr. Victor Gomes lived at the residence with his parents.
And they're the ones that called 911?
The mother of Mr. Gomes does not speak English. The mother called a relative to notify them of what she had found. And then the family member she called us. So that's why we were kind of playing phone tag, trying to figure out what happened.
So as of right now, did he have limited custody of his child?
Supervised visitation.
Okay. And what would that entail, supervised?
So that means that when he has visitation, his parents were required to be there with him.
So this was not then a supervised visit?
It was, because the child was with his father and in the home living with Mr. Gomes' parents. So Mr. Gomes was living with his mother and father, and when he had visitation, his mother and father had to be there.
His parents got it.
There's a couple of things. Is he 43 years old or 33? Because I do see
43.
in here. Okay.
How old is the child? How old is the child? How do we say the age?
10 years old.
Do we know where the child was exactly shot?
Yes. We're not releasing that information.
Was there multiple gunshot wounds? Or?
We're not releasing that information.
In terms of, this is a very tragic event, especially with, your officers as well as the grandparents. What kind of steps do you go forward when there is something as tragic as this?
Internally, we have a peer support team. We've called in our peer support team, and they are talking and working with the officers that were on the scene. The officers that were on the scene and provided first aid and CPR, they're off on a paid administrative leave, and they'll be going to our psychologist just for a wellness check to make sure they're doing well too. We'll do a incident debrief with our department after the investigation is complete and make sure that everybody is mentally doing well. Our department also works with our department psychologist, and we do annual wellness checks where they meet with our department psychologist, and they get to talk with them about anything they want to that may be on their chest, and they're also allowed to bring spouses or significant others to that counseling session also, just for an annual wellness and health checkup for them. So internally, those are all the things that we're doing. I know the county superintendent of schools has a robust counseling program, and they're the ones that will be providing that services to the child's school district.
Speaking to, if you do see anybody that you think possibly could be suicidal, is this like a way to speak up? Definitely let your department know, because you never want to see these type of calls. Do you guys have any message to anybody?
See something, say something. It's always better to, if you see something that doesn't seem right or seems odd, whether it's a peer, a coworker, a neighbor, whatever it is, it's always better if you see something, to say something. We're very fortunate. We have our city supports the police department really heavily, especially with mental health and suicide prevention. Having to go through a career seeing traumatic things, it weighs heavily on law enforcement officers. Internally, that's why we feel very supported that we have the ability to talk to psychologists and we have peer support, and we actively make sure that our officers' mental health is as best as it can be. And for the students, be honest, I can't even fathom what they'd be going through to lose a classmate. Just tragic.
This was Captain at Victor's parents' home, is that correct?
Yes.
Has the mom been notified, and how is she, what is her state right now?
She has been notified, and obviously she's dealing with the loss of her child. I can't even begin to speak on the devastation. All right. We'll conclude. If there's no other questions, we'll have the written press release along with a picture of Gomes as well available for you guys. Thank you guys for coming too. We appreciate it.